Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hi friends, and welcome to May 27, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with me, your astrologer, Shelley Overton. I want to welcome you to the podcast this week. We're going to be going over the current astrology and seeing what's coming up and talking maybe a little bit about current events as I am wont to do. So let's get started here. Let me see where we are. Okay, I'm going to just update this chart. Where are we at? Da-da-da-da-da. Probably have to edit this out. There we go. Okay, now chart here, probably on this side, maybe on this side, I don't know, whichever side I do it. Leo rising. We've got Leo on the horizon here where I'm at, but it kind of is an irrelevant position for people in other places, because whenever you're listening to this, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the rising sign is for you. So don't worry too much about where the rising sign is or how this chart is set up. Matter of fact, it probably would behoove me to just make it a natural chart, which means everything is at 0 degrees, and a natural chart means Aries is on the horizon. So we're just going to do it that way currently, so we can just look and see what's what. Okay, we've got Uranus. I'm just going to go around the chart. Uranus at 12 degrees Taurus. We've got the Sun at 6 degrees Gemini, North Node at 10, and South Node at 10 Sagittarius. We've got Gemini at 22, or excuse me, Venus at 22 Gemini. Mercury is at 24 Gemini, and Mercury goes retrograde this Saturday. Mars is at 20 degrees Cancer in conjunct to the Moon at 23 Sagittarius. Pluto is at 26 Capricorn, Saturn at 13 Aquarius, and we've got Jupiter at 1 degree Pisces and Neptune at 22 Pisces. So first thing that kind of jumps out at me on this chart is that Neptune's at 22 Pisces in a square to Venus at 22 Gemini. And of course, the moon right now is at 23 Sagittarius, directly opposite Venus and Mercury. And then we have 20 degrees of Mars. So Mars is in trine to Neptune. And yesterday, Mars was in grand trine to Neptune and the moon in Scorpio. And a grand trine usually means that there's intense power in a triangle up in the sky. So in 1/3 of our sky around the Earth, we are looking up at the solar system and seeing all these planets in aspect to each other in exactly 1/3 of the sky all around us. So it really brings a potent, intensified energy. Trine is an energy that can bring out things that we don't really want to see, and things that we are going to potentially struggle to integrate into our lives. But ultimately, there will be a positive outcome, but it's, in my view, kind of a shocking aspect. It will bring out something you'll be like, where did that come from? That was not at all what I expected. But today, we only have a trine between Neptune and Mercury. And then we've got a square between the moon and Neptune. So right as I'm recording this, we have that square, and moon in Sagittarius is about travel, transportation, education, and higher spiritual understanding. And it is an action-based energy. So the moon integrates what it understands to be the truth of a matter, and it wants to move forward, but it's being thwarted by the energy of Neptune. Neptune is very dreamy, very low energy, so to speak. I've mentioned this before, but Virgo is the opposite of Pisces, and Virgo is a very driven, quick mental energy sign, and it's about health, and the opposite side can be a counterbalance to that energy. And so it means that we're much more kind of foggy, more Pisces, watery in our heads, and not really engaged as strongly in mental pursuits as we might normally be. But Neptune wants us to understand a deeper spiritual energy around emotion, around the visceral qualities of life, and also a connection to spirit and spiritual understanding. So Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, is in Pisces, and so while they are square by sign, they are not square in the sky, and Jupiter honestly will be in sextile to the moon very soon when the moon goes into Capricorn, which is tomorrow, I believe. Let's just look here and see when that is. 10:23 p.m. on Thursday, so it's earlier than that. It's tonight. And so by the time you're listening to this, chances are the moon will be in Capricorn. So what is a moon in Capricorn? A moon in Capricorn means that security is paramount, and feeling a sense of security through the physical structure, through the system that we create and engage in, what our environment around us is giving us back. I don't know what's going on. I've got all these itches on my head. I've got them just floating. Who knows why? I don't have really the itchy nose today. It's just different parts of my head. So maybe that is a message from the spirit about paying attention to the head. And Mars is the ruler of Aries, and so Mars in Cancer can mean pay attention to actions taken in the home environment. Cancer rules the home, and so it's about the domestic qualities, the needing to have our home environment safe and secure. And like I said, the moon, the ruling planet of Cancer, is going into Capricorn for the next 3 days. And so moon in Capricorn will be Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. Moon enters Aquarius at 12:04 a.m., meaning earliest hour of the day on Sunday. So Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and then pretty much we'll have a moon in Aquarius on Sunday. And so the moon in Capricorn is going to really focus us back where we've been, as the energy of Pluto and Saturn and various other planets, including the stellium in Capricorn last year, have been. And so it's going to remind us of those issues. And those issues are, how are we looking at the structure of our lives? What is our career all about? How does our career affect those in our family? And how does that look? What are we going to do about integrating our life purpose with the family and home, and how it may be part of what our career is now? Through the course of the last year, the lockdown has affected careers. People have gone out of the office, which Capricorn is very much an in-office traditional role in career. And now we're moving more into Aquarius, which wants its freedom. We don't want to be restricted to the office. We don't want to go in. And a lot of us are feeling the anxiety of this whole energy of the pandemic and what's going on with career, what's going on with structures in society. And it can make us feel a little skittish and a little bit like, I don't want to be around other people. I'm not necessarily willing to give up what I want for what is being told to me. And so that's kind of a really strong energy towards the end of the week and into the weekend, as I said. So yeah, we're going to have that. And of course, as moon goes into Capricorn, it's going to be in conjunct or 150 degrees away from the energy of Gemini. And that is starting with the sun. So moon, sun in opposition. They actually were just in direct opposition. Excuse me. By visual scope, it looks like the moon is opposite Gemini, but that's just because it's in late Sagittarius, and we did just have full moon eclipse opposition this week, and this is just the last vestiges of that. So the moon in the current position is at opposition to Venus and Venus and Mercury. And that means that we're thinking more about travel. We're thinking more about how we move about in our lives and what kind of people we hang out with and where they're from. Are they from other cultures? Are we integrating the energy that we find out from people of other cultures? And as the moon moves into Capricorn, it becomes an inconjunct, which is 150 degrees apart. So every planet in Gemini that was opposite the moon is now going to be at 150 degrees, which is a more uncomfortable, distasteful, difficult energy because we are not approaching the topic in the same way. And so the sun in Gemini is ego and the desire to just speak in any way that suits our ego and the need of the moment, while the moon, looking again for security, wants to take the ego to task. Sorry about that. So the moon, the emotions are saying, this doesn't feel right to me. I want something that's more reliable and responsible, which is where the moon's going to be over the weekend. And it's not going to gel, so to speak, for Gemini. And because the moon is such an indicator of consequences in many ways in astrology, going into Capricorn, again, Capricorn is the sign that answers to Saturn, and Saturn just went retrograde, I believe. It just went retrograde, it's about to. No, it just went retrograde. So many retrogrades this time of year. Saturn retrograded Sunday the 23rd. And so now the ruling planet of the sign the moon will be in for the weekend is not moving forward. He is going back over past energy, and the energy he's going back over is Aquarius. And so the beginning of this year, where Saturn was direct, running very rapidly through the sign of Aquarius, he was exploring space. And this is the Pisces energy directly affecting me. The fact that I'm staying up, I'm a night owl anyway, but I stayed up late and then I woke up earlier than I should have. But the moon in Capricorn answering to Saturn, and Saturn's in Aquarius, and he wants to go back over the technology and technological aspects. It can also mean that Bitcoin goes down, which it has been doing recently, dropping. I don't know the specifics about that, but it does rule Bitcoin. Aquarius is science and technology, math, intellectualism, and it is also the energy that challenges the status quo. Saturn is the status quo. So Saturn is showing us now how the status quo is in upheaval. And going retrograde, it means that, yes, we've made these new changes in our lives, and the status quo was challenged for the first part of the year. Is that what we want? Do we want the status quo to be really taken to task in the way it has? Are we happy with moving forward, moving towards this common view of freedom or common good, common mindset? And now it's time to evaluate that. And I have someone I know who has been kind of in flux energetically with environment and is here and then there and there. And she isn't sure where she wants to be, which I can identify with. But it's kind of like, are we going to stay put? And, now is the time when we're evaluating whether or not we're going to stay put. Are we going to move on? Are we going to uproot again? Are we going to change the structure of the system, which is really a lot of what this energy is trying to get us to do, is change our mental structures. And that's what Aquarius is. So Saturn is about bringing those structures into the tangible world. It is about inventions and inventiveness. I know I was watching the Instagram feeds and I saw the cloud for one of the rockets going up I think it may have been today or yesterday. And so it's about, is that the right trajectory for what we're planning on doing in the future? And it's the time to tinker with things, to look at everything, evaluate it again and say, hey, is this truly what I want to be doing? And I was watching Mad Men. Again, I'm coming up on the end. I think if I want to finish it tonight, I've only got like 4 episodes. And so the the show Mad Men is really interesting to me because the characters, well, number one, are in marketing, which is part of my background, and they come up with a whole way to promote a product, and then in this last episode, they said, no, I don't want to do it that way. Maybe I should do it a different way. And it was a really good campaign, and it was approved of and signed off on by the powers that be. And then overnight, it was like, no, I don't think that's what I want to do. That's kind of the energy that we're going into. It's like there's a project, we think we have it all settled, and then no, we don't. So look for that, but also look for how we communicate what we're thinking about, how we communicate the ideas associated with those projects, because Capricorn energy with the moon is going to want to bring ideas into the tangible. Emotions and sensitivities will be coming out in the material world. And then we have all the Gemini planets going, but I don't care. I'm just going to do it the way I see it. We've got Venus and Mercury both ahead of the moon. So the way to determine that is the sun. You have the sun, and then normally Venus and Mercury are behind the sun, but then as they move past it, that's called out of bounds. So they're running ahead of the sun, and the sun is the center of the solar system and kind of acts as a grounder for the planets. But when they run ahead of the sun, they are kind of on furlough or on day pass like they do in the Navy. They're out there on shore leave, causing trouble and going and doing whatever it is they want without regard to consequences. And so our words, Venus and Mercury. Mercury is the words, Venus is the desire, and they're only 2 degrees away from each other. So they're acting in tandem right now. And Venus, of course, is wanting things a certain way, wants beauty, wants aesthetics to be pleasing, wants her product line to be beautiful and appealing. And Mercury wants to express how that is to the world. Hey, look, I've got this new product and I'm going to go give it to you or present it to you. And being that the moon is in a difficult aspect to these planets over the weekend, it's going to mean that we're going to say something, but then in saying something, the Gemini side is just very flippant and very cavalier about the words, whereas the moon says, yeah, but you just said that, so what do you mean by that? And it's going to have to be backed up in the material world, and we're going to have to walk our talk, so to speak. And then, as the moon goes through Capricorn, he touches the sun, North Node, Venus, and then Mercury, and then passes out of there into the opposition with Mars. Ultimately, he'll hit an opposition. That was the inconjunction Gemini, and then he hits an opposition with Mars. At the same time, he is inconjunct to Mercury and Venus. Now, keep in mind that this is Thursday, and this happens on Saturday night, so that's still 2.5 days away. Venus goes into a new sign, and when she goes into a new sign, I'm guessing that's probably when Moon will actually hit Venus in an opposition. Let's just see. I think I looked that up here before the podcast. Mercury opposes Venus, overnight on Saturday night at 1:13 a.m., that's Eastern, and Friday night at 12:13 p.m. Pacific. And so Friday to Saturday, there's an opposition. Friday evening, as Moon comes into that direct opposition to Mercury, or to Venus, starting with Mercury, because remember, Mercury is retrograde on Saturday. Let's just look that up. So there should be, an opposition. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of stuff on Saturday. Saturday is when we start out the day with the Mercury opposing Venus. Again, desires not in alignment with how the concept is, like how we express out in our environment, in our tangible world, what we're going to do is not in alignment with how we think it should go. That's kind of confusing, but in other words, it's really the desire is at odds with the communication, but at the same time, having these opposite each other, having the moon opposite Mercury, or Venus, Venus and Mercury conjunct overnight, Friday to Saturday, my bad. And then Moon opposes Mars. I'm going to just have to time that out. Oh my goodness. It's like, cut that all out. So Mercury conjuncts Venus at 10:13 p.m. Pacific and 1:13 a.m. So as Mercury and Venus join together, they are as one. Then the moon will oppose Mars. And then the moon comes into inconjunct later on Saturday at 3:07, and that's p.m. Moon inconjunct Mercury at 3:07, and moon inconjunct Venus at 4:23. So those two, I'm going to just highlight this. Those two specifically are going to be a difficult aspect. Inconjunct means that, or even in opposition, either one, they're challenges to how things should be done or how things are thought to be done, how we want to do something. So again, because this energy is very much concentrated end degrees Gemini, beginning degrees Cancer, it relates to communication, education, siblings, neighbors, home and family, people who are close to us and people we trust in a sense of security. And there's going to be a challenge to that. We're going to have to see an opposite energy, and the moon in Capricorn is definitely going to be challenging how those structures around us are. And it's going to, I see it in my mind's eye, kind of the Tower card. It's going to be structures falling down, honestly, over the weekend. And then we have that day, this is Sunday, Saturday and Sunday. I'm just going to list all these. We've got Mercury conjunct Venus, moon opposite Mars, moon sextile to Neptune, and inconjunct to Mercury at 3:07, inconjunct to Venus at 4:23. We've got a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn at 6:15 p.m. So that is really a major awakening day. Saturday is about communications. It's about structure. It's about being in a place that is beyond where we normally go. It's testing the boundaries. It's challenging us to understand something in a new way. And really, it's kind of like we get the rug pulled out from under us, quite honestly, on Saturday. There we go. And then Mercury retrogrades at 6:34 p.m. The moon enters Aquarius at 9:04 p.m. Pacific and 12:04 a.m. Sunday Eastern Time, followed by a Venus inconjunct to Pluto at 1:47 p.m. on Sunday Eastern. Moon in Aquarius is trine to the Sun at 4:43 p.m. Sextile to Chiron at 9 o'clock at night. Moon squares Uranus at 9:30 p.m. This happens twice a month now because, of course, the moon comes into 90 degrees twice a month to Uranus. So it's going to be about technology. This particular moon squaring Uranus, of course, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Moon in Aquarius, so it's technology, it's understanding, but it's also goods and services. This is the Bitcoin aspect, in my opinion. It really challenges Bitcoin and the technology around that. So blockchain technology is going to be taking a hit and challenged. Then we have the moon right on Saturn at 11:25 p.m. on Sunday. And so that means there is a story that has an answer, has a response. Because it is a retrograde Saturn, it's going to be a very strong energy of altering the course of something we thought was moving in a new direction, but now it's going to tip it off again just another degree or two another way. And then Mars trines Neptune at 10:15 p.m. So significant this weekend. Everything that I just listed is all very potent energy around shift, change, around our mentality, around our emotions, around our security, around how we see things to be real. I think that this is going to bring out some new information about what's been going on within the Republican Party and within how we see everything that's happened this year so far. Also, of course, we've got that moon on, let's see, I think it's Sunday before it goes into Aquarius. It's going to hit the degree that we had the stellium in Capricorn. Let me see. Yeah, 22 degrees. So that's going to be another hit to that stellium, but also a lot of the other energies are awakening this weekend that are associated with the people involved with the insurrection early on in the year. I'm really sorry, I'm so tired. I didn't have coffee because I've been having some issues drinking coffee lately, so I didn't have any coffee today, and it's definitely showing. I'm sorry about that. Monday's Memorial Day. Mars is in trine to Neptune, so again, taking action. I think that, and then this is also something I wanted to touch on briefly because we had yesterday evening was the San Jose shooting, and let's see, today is the 26th. So it was really on the full moon lunar eclipse. It started early in the morning, which is when it happened. The lunar eclipse was 4:14 a.m. in California. So just after that exact opposition and lunar eclipse, we had the shooting in California. So you may be wondering, well, why would that only be one event? I haven't looked at more local news. There could be other events that are also being triggered. Would not surprise me. But part of the reason that things express the way they do is because it's kind of like a perfect storm energy. You have to have not only the planets align, but people who are being affected and towns that have this come out in them. It's like the perfect storm of energy of a person who's been going through something and hasn't been integrating the emotions or the thought process the right way and is being triggered even more so in their mind, in their emotions, by the particular events of astrology. And then why does it come out where it comes out? Well, that particular city, San Jose, California, probably had positions in the chart that were conducive to that exact event, kind of like the way Boulder did when it was hit. And so, that's why when the planets align in a certain way, it triggers people's need to behave in a certain way, need to act out. And last night was an example of that in San Jose. For whatever reason, the shooter was triggered, pardon the pun, but triggered by the events of the lunar eclipse. And, quite honestly, lunatics do come out under full moons. That's how they got the name. So we also had last week an event that, not even last week, it was literally just 3 days ago, but it was really upsetting to me having read it because it wasn't, when I read it, necessarily one of the bigger news stories of the day, but it became a fairly big news story, and that is the diversion of the Ryanair airplane to Belarus, I believe is where they derailed it. It was on its way to Lithuania, and it stopped in Belarus because it was threatened by MiG fighter jets, and the commercial airline filled with regular people just flying to where they're going, with the exception of the person they brought it down for, is just such an invasion of ethics. In my opinion, I just can't even see straight with that, because I've been on planes that they literally didn't tell any of the passengers why we were not landing when we were supposed to and why we took off in the fog. And it was some of the most harrowing minutes of my life, from when that happened to me. So I can't even imagine people on this flight of Ryanair dropping down. I think they said they dropped when they were about 10,000 feet. They were coming in to land, and then the plane just went vertically down, and then came in at Minsk, and everyone was deplaned, and their things had gone through, all these searches. So it's just a really bad event. Sorry, my phone's going off. My daughter always calls me when I'm having a podcast or a reading. Anyway, Yeah, so the Ryanair incident, if you hadn't heard, there was a young man who was like 26 years old and his girlfriend on the flight, and he had done live online influencer um, stories about with a company, I think it's called Nexta, Nexta, if I'm not mistaken. And during some riots in Minsk, he followed it as a story and he kept posting on social media, which infuriated the new president of Lithuania or Lithuania? Yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused because there's Lithuania influence and Belarus and Minsk. And I remember seeing the map, but I think I'm a little confused. I think the plane was on its way to Belarus and it got sidetracked to Lithuania, but I could get that reversed. Anyway, we've got Pluto opposite Mars at that time within 8 degrees, but we've also got the stellium and Gemini all in trine to Saturn and squaring Neptune and squaring Jupiter. And I think the square to Jupiter and the Sun was pretty significant in my mind at the time this happened because it was within 1 degree, and then the moon was at 2 degrees. So we have an inconjunct of the moon to the sun. So the moon in Scorpio to the sun in Gemini, and Jupiter, which rules airline travel, at 1 degree Pisces, trine to the moon. So Scorpio is vengeful or can be vengeful in its lower energy. We've got technology and air. So this incident happened in the air with fighter pilots threatening probably to take it down. I haven't heard specifically that, but I know you don't take an airplane vertically down to come in unless you're under threat of being, basically taken out, in my opinion. Jupiter in square to the sun, and Jupiter, of course, rules airline travel, and Pisces is also something going on hidden behind the scenes. At the moment that this happened, 10:29 a.m., that's when they landed. Jupiter was at 1 degree Pisces and Neptune was at 22 Pisces. And of course, Neptune was squaring Mercury, which is the Gemini energy. So there's a lot of conflictual energy going on in this chart. And then the rising sign is Leo, which is very much an energy of arrogance and taking it down. And what happened was the fallout from this whole thing. It's going to make Belarus suffer because no airline is getting to go out of there to the European countries around it. So they're basically immediately sanctioned by the airlines. So rightly so, hopefully even more sanctions. This is not okay. Human rights violations are a very big reality of what's going on right now with Saturn in Aquarius retrograde. And the moon in Capricorn is definitely going to increase the intensity of what's going on with Pluto. And Pluto, as we have seen, and then Mars opposite in Cancer. This energy, Pluto opposite Cancer and Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, are absolutely, in my opinion, the responsible parties for everything going on with the shift and change of human rights right now. And so as long as we have triggers going on to Pluto at late degrees of Capricorn, retrograde now, and Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, thankfully, Saturn's not going back into Capricorn. So in my opinion, all of the forward gains that we've gotten through human rights, we are only going to increase those. I don't think that those are going away, but we are going to see people acting out. I think that there's more technology and social media, which is Gemini and Aquarius, being used right now that lets everybody in society know more of the truth. And so I think that that's going to keep pushing us forward in our growth, especially around humanitarian causes. So, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to get to that because that was a significant event. We are having a lot of news stories, including a Supreme Court challenge of Roe v. Wade, which were, of course, escalated by specific legislative maneuvering by certain parties. And so now that's going to the Supreme Court to be challenged once again. And women's rights are very much in the spotlight. But Mercury and Venus out of bounds, I see that as a good thing because we are going to, we as women are going to stand up for those rights. And I'm just looking here. It says Chile's political establishment has been swept away. Now there's hope for change. And so with that, I do see that there is hope for change because, like I said last week about Chile's politics, that was a complete upset of the dictatorship going on down there. So I'm very, very excited and optimistic that we will, in fact, move forward. And we're in a retrograde season. So it's pulling back of the forward motion of planets for review. But we are also moving into the age of Aquarius, which is going to stand up for human rights. And that's the last air sign of the three. We've got Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So it is about learning how to have consideration for humans. And anyway, I'm sorry if this podcast was a little choppy and a little low energy this week, but you know, it isn't always the best energy to do the podcast, but I do want to get it together for you. And with that, I will say goodbye. Have a good week, and we'll see you here next week. Bye.
Well, check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.